Greetings YouTube, welcome back to the Metronet channel. I am Marcus, bringing you another video for Cardfight Vanguard Overdress. Apparently this review actually slipped my mind. I did not thought about making this video until just recently, which is the review for the festival collection, which will be coming out in another 2 weeks for the Japan. There are a total of 2 new cards for each nation, and the rest of the cards are basically reprints of the trial decks. As always, the timestamp will be in the description for you to navigate to your respective nation. Now, without further ado, let's start with Dragon Empire. The first one we have is Blaze Maiden Mirin. She has one skill, Auto Rearguard. When your unit with the Overdress ability attacks, put this unit into your soul. Choose one of your units with the Overdress ability and it gets 5k power until the end of turn. Now, something very interesting about this card is that she is a 6k grade 1, which is not very common anymore within Overdress because most of the grade 1s are actually 8k base. Now, she is a 6k, which kind of seems out of place. She does power up a Overdress attack, meaning all your Virina, so Virina Valiente, Virina Arcus, and as well as Elgar, the new one from BT02. She does give them each of them power, 5k power to be exact, when they attack. And after that, she actually moves to the soul in order to give the Overdress unit a 5k power boost. And what's more, the power does last until the end of turn, so if you do attack hit with Virina Valiente, the power boost is still there regardless if it restands or not. And since Mirin does move to the soul, she does helps with the cost for Virina, which is Sobastu to retire 1. Overall, quite nice because I do see a lot of Overdress players right now is playing that 10k booster. This might be a better replacement for the 10k booster because she does do a lot other than just being a 6k. And since you can actually put this behind the Vanguard before your Virina's attack, it's also quite nice. The next one we have is a Tachikaze Dragon, Rough Eating Dragon Hungersaurus. Yeah, very hungry dinosaur. Continuous rearguard circle. During your turn, this unit gets 5k power, and if your opponent has a front row rearguard, this unit cannot attack the Vanguard. This is actually a very weird unit. I'm not sure how do I say this. I mean, it's a grade 2 15k attacker. He can still attack the rearguard if there is a front row rearguard, so that's not really do as much. For a very hungry dinosaur, you don't retire anything, which is kind of weird. And I don't think this card will have any usage except maybe Eugene, but I don't know. This card is really not that great. Next up is for Dark States. Now, I did cover this card in the previous current state of Dark States video. Diabolos Boys Jared. He has 2 skill, active rearguard once per turn, cost Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your units with Diabolos in its card name and it gets 10k power until the end of turn. The second skill, Auto Rearguard. When this unit attacks, if you are in final rush, your opponent cannot intercept until the end of that battle. Now, of course, I did point out the similarities between this and Crawl, You Insects, the other card. They both essentially does the same card, just that Jared only powers up any Diabolos unit. That includes the Vanguard, and you can also give the power to himself, in which he will be attacking for 20k without your opponent intercepting. It's a decent attacker, but not really the best because you still have Marjorie as well as Colossus being a very good contender. But however, Jared is a really good attacker if you compare Jared with Eden. Eden does have a 5k lesser power, but that 5k lesser power can be boosted with Jared. But if a card requires another card to help it functions, I don't think it's going to be great. Yeah. And then of course, you can always call this card out just to use once and then put Jared himself into the soul by using Marjorie or Protobub, because other than boosting power, it really does nothing much, I would say. And furthermore, if you do use Protobub, you can put Jared back to your hand. Next is the Great Age Dragon. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if your soul have 5 or more cards, discard a card from your hand, choose one of your opponent's back row rearguard and retire it. Yes, we do have a field control card that is not on hit, but the problem is that it discards a card it has double the restriction. The first restriction is you have to be in 5 soul. So of course you're not going to retire something when you write a grade 1. And the second one being discard a card. Even discarding a card to write from the right deck is a very hard decision by itself. With this requiring you to discard another card, it's really not good. It has a very niche use, unless of course we have another archetype that actually focuses on discarding hand for dark states. Other than that, I really don't see this card being used that often, unless of course Bruce definitely will not use this card because Bruce hand size is each and every other units that Bruce has in his or her hand is very valuable, and you're not going to discard a 15k shield just to retire something in the back row. No, just no. And Barrow Magnus arguably can use this card, but at the same time, it's the same logic as Bruce, because each and every card in your hand is actually too valuable to discard just to retire something in the back. So yeah, moving on. For Keter Sanctuary, we have Harp Bow of Heavenly Music Alphian. Active rearguard once per turn. If you have 3 or more grade 3 units, counterblast 1. This unit gets 5k power until the end of the turn. And if you persona write this turn, draw a card. The double restriction on the skill is just why? Because it's gonna push this unit a little bit back until you write your first grade 3. Bastion may be able to use this card. Hexa Orb maybe also can use this card, but then it's gonna be very slow. If you want to use like the full effect, you will need to wait until the 4th turn where you can persona write, unless of course Busher decided to introduce superior writing, then yeah, we'll be in dipshit. Despite this card being very slow, it does work well for both Bastion and Hexa Orb. I would actually compare Alphian to Alden. Alden is actually a much better card because it does not have the weird restriction that this card have, but then Alphian is only counterblast 1, whereas Alden is counterblast 2 and Assault Blast. I mean, it's either you want a very fast, very early skill or a very slow skill, which actually is kind of good, but then I still prefer Alden. The next card is a dog, Golgaon. Probably butchered that name, I don't care. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard, Soul Blast 1 to call a grade 1 from your hand to rearguard circle, and the unit call before this cost gets 5k until the end of turn. This card is most probably is for Hexa Orb because I don't think you want to run any additional grade 2 for Bastion, because in order to use Bastion's skill very consistently, you will need as much grade 3 as possible. And I don't know, with this card, it's a Soul Blast 1 to call a grade 1 from your hand. I mean, I don't know. It does not really do much other than giving power, but at the same time, it's still, you're still able to superior cost something from the hand, but then I don't know, it's weird for me. For Stoicheia, we have Hydro Rail Dragon. Auto, rearguard circle. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, retire this unit, choose a grade 3 unit card from your drop and put it into your hand. Now this card is actually very good for Stoicheia, regardless if you're running Zorga or Magnolia. It's a persona right recycle. Because Stoicheia does Soul Blast a lot, you tend to Soul Blast or maybe mill your Zorga or Magnolia to the drop zone. If you use this card as your main attacker, and if it hits, you can actually retire himself just to put a grade 3 unit, which tends to be your persona right target, from your drop to your hand, which is kind of free. At the same time, if you're using this with Zorga is able to revive this unit over and over again. So that's not really matter since the cost is just whatever. For Zorga, since Magnolia is able to run the order card where you can revive something from the drop zone, I guess it's still fine. You can also put himself back to your hand, because since it does retire himself and he himself is a grade 3 unit, you can put him back to your hand and use it for the cost of your PG, which is also something to think about. However, do keep in mind, you can only put units and not order. This is very important because there might be some players out there that actually says, hey, I can actually put a grade 3 order card from their drop to hand, where the skill clearly states it's a grade 3 unit. So please. Next one is another dog, Sylvanhorn Beast Corsi. Yeah, I think that's the name. Continuous, this card cannot be written or called other than to the back row center. Now, very simple skill. You can only call it at behind the Vanguard. Now there is a very good reason, is because as you know, this card is a 15k base power and there's no shield value. Now with that 15k, of course, you know it's gonna be disgusting. It's a 20k attacker for Magnolia at the back row. Of course, there is no shield value, just so that you can't really like guard with them, because I mean you kind of need to balance out the card skill a little bit. The restriction on this is actually quite balanced, because imagine if Magnolia is able to call 3 of this dog at the back row. Not so good now, is it? Zorga can also use this, but only as a booster, since Zorga cannot allow another unit to attack from the back row. I mean, yeah, this card, you can actually get one, like put one of this in the deck and you're still able to function. Quite nice overall, but then it's much more scarier for Magnolia to have this instead of Zorga. Now the last nation we have is Brandt Gate. The first one is Aurora Battle Princess Spark Lemonade. Auto rearguard. When this unit attack hits, you choose up to 2 units card from your opponent's drop and imprison them in your prison. Put them into your other zone that has a prison. Now, this allows a more on-hit pressure for Seraph Snow. Definitely this card will be in Seraph Snow. It's never going to be in Orifice. It does pressure your opponent to guard or even throw a PG out to this unit for the other unit to attack hit. So on hit pressure right now in the metagame is actually very, very good, because if you do drive check into a critical, you can actually give the power to this unit and the crit to the other unit that does not have an on hit skill, just so that your opponent has to make a choice. Do they want to let you hit and bind you from the drop zone to the prison, or do they want to take 2 damage? Also, something to note is that you are able to choose up to 2 units. You are the one that is choosing which unit from the drop zone to be imprisoned. It does help with the imprison commitment, because you need like 3 in the prison in order for Seraph Snow to unlock her full effect. Lastly, we have Twin Press Smasher. Active rearguard circle, once per turn, cost, counterblast 1 and rest this unit. Choose one of your opponent's front row rearguard and retire it. Yes, so actually field control for, I would say, Orifice. You are able to run this with Seraph Snow, just that there are better things for you to run than this card. I mean, counterblast 1, rest 1 unit to retire 1. It's not too bad. If you do run it in Orifice, you can actually use his skill to rest himself, and then you can actually call tokens from Orifice and you just replace this unit with the token, since it's rest and it's not going away anyway. So yeah, quite nice. Valiente is in big trouble now, because almost each and every nation has a sort of a field control. So it's not looking too good for Overdress unit, because the resist skill of Trickstar does not pass on to Valiente and so on. So it's in a big trouble, so you know what I mean. And that is all the cards that was being reviewed for the festival collection. Do let me know down in the comment section of what do you think of these new cards that is being introduced in the special set. Personally, I find some of them quite underwhelming, and of course this allows some whales, including myself, to actually blink out their deck, so quite fun. Do like and subscribe if you like this video, and be sure to ring the notification bell icon. With that being said, I'll see you all on the field.